Hey there. Getting ready for that big international trip, I bet.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
thinking about all the things to pack, places to see, food to try, but have you thought about how you're going to navigate the airport in a foreign country? Especially if you aren't fluent in the language.
It's definitely something most people don't consider until they're standing in the middle of a bustling foreign airport, completely overwhelmed. But even if you don't speak the language fluently, a few strategic phrases and an understanding of airport culture can make all the difference.
I know from experience, on my first trip abroad, I spent an embarrassing amount of time
Oh, no.
trying to decipher the train schedule at Heathrow in French. Let's just say I ended up taking a very expensive taxi.
No, I can imagine. That's a classic travel tale. But you're in luck. Today we're going to equip you with the knowledge to conquer any airport in any language.
Okay, let's start from the moment you arrive at the airport. Besides knowing basic phrases like, where's the restroom, or can you help me with my luggage? What else can we do to feel more confident right off the bat?
Well, one thing that always helps me is understanding the logic behind airport signage. Airports all over the world tend to use similar symbols and layouts. Think of it like a universal language of travel. Once you crack the code, it's like having a secret map.
That makes sense. So instead of frantically searching for a specific word in a language I don't understand, I should focus on recognizing those universal symbols. What about those airport codes? I'm always mixing them up.
Ah, airport codes. They can definitely be a bit confusing, but they're essential for navigating the airport world. It's interesting how those three-letter codes actually hold a lot of history. For example, did you know that LAX, the code for Los Angeles International Airport, originally stood for LAX, marking the spot on a map where the airfield was planned?
No way. That's fascinating. I always thought they were just randomly assigned letters. Knowing the meaning behind them makes them much easier to remember.
Exactly. And once you start recognizing those codes, you'll feel like a seasoned traveler effortlessly gliding through the airport. Of course, you'll also want to master a few key phrases for checking in and finding your gate.
Let's talk about checking in. Besides asking for help with luggage, is there anything else we should keep in mind, especially in terms of those cultural nuances you mentioned?
Absolutely. In some cultures, it's considered polite to engage in a bit of small talk with the check-in agent, even if it's just a brief greeting or comment about the weather.
Yeah.
It shows that you're acknowledging them as a person, not just a service provider.
That's a great tip. I never would have thought of that. So instead of just handing over my passport and ticket, I should try to make a little connection with the agent. It's amazing how such a small gesture can make a big difference.
It really can. And it's not just about being polite. It can actually help you avoid potential misunderstandings or delays. A friendly interaction can go a long way, especially if you're dealing with a language barrier.
Speaking of potential misunderstandings, let's talk about security. That's usually the part of the airport that makes me the most anxious, especially when I'm not sure what the procedures are.
I hear you. Security lines can be a bit stressful. But think of it this way. Everyone's in the same boat, and the security personnel are just trying to do their job and keep everyone safe.
That's a good point. So instead of getting flustered, I should focus on following the instructions and communicating clearly if I have any questions, like, where do I put my liquids? Or can you please explain this procedure again?
Exactly. Don't be afraid to ask for clarification. Security personnel are used to dealing with travelers from all over the world and are usually happy to help. And remember, those universal symbols we talked about earlier come in handy here too. Look for signs indicating what items are allowed and prohibited in your carry-on luggage.
Okay, I'm starting to feel more confident already. Just knowing that I can rely on those universal symbols and a few key phrases is a huge relief.
That's the spirit. We're well on our way to becoming airport ninjas gliding through those terminals with ease and a newfound sense of adventure.
So we've arrived at the airport, checked in, and navigated security. What's next on our airport adventure?
Ah, that glorious moment when you finally reach your gate. It's like the calm before the storm of excitement that comes with boarding the plane. But even in this pre-flight haven, there are a few things to keep in mind.
I've always wondered about those departure screens at the gate. Sometimes they seem to have a language of their own, all those abbreviations and codes.
Oh, absolutely. They're definitely information-packed, aren't they? But once you know what to look for, those screens can be your best friend at the gate.
Okay, give me the insider scoop. What should I be paying attention to?
Well, first, you'll want to confirm your flight number and destination, just to make absolutely sure you're at the right gate. Then keep an eye on the departure time, especially if you have a tight connection.
Right. Those connecting flights can be tricky.
And here's a tip. If you see the status change to delayed or boarding, don't panic. Instead of rushing to the front of the line, take a moment to check the updated boarding time.
That's a good reminder. Sometimes it's better to wait and see what happens than to get caught in a boarding frenzy.
Exactly. And while you're waiting, those departure screens can also give you clues about your aircraft. You can often find the aircraft type listed, which can be fun if you're an aviation geek like me.
Okay, I have to admit I'm not quite an aviation geek, but I do get curious about those different plane types, especially when it comes to legroom. Any tips on deciphering that from the departure screen?
Well, there isn't always a direct correlation between aircraft type and legroom, unfortunately. But if you see an aircraft type you're unfamiliar with, you can always do a quick search on your phone to get an idea of the layout and amenities.
That's a great idea. I'm all about those travel hacks that make the journey smoother.
Me too.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of boarding, that's often when the excitement really kicks in. But there's still a bit of airport lingo to master before you settle into your seat.
Okay, let's talk boarding etiquette. What are some phrases that will make me sound like a seasoned traveler?
Well, besides knowing how to say, excuse me, and thank you, in the local language, there are a few specific phrases that come in handy during boarding. Let's say you need to get to your seat in the middle of the row, but someone's already settled in the aisle seat. Instead of awkwardly hovering, you could say something like, excuse me, would you mind letting me pass?
That makes so much more sense than just standing there with a confused look on my face.
And if you need to store your carry-on luggage in the overhead bins, a simple, may I put my bag here, can go a long way.
Yeah.
It's all about being polite and considerate of your fellow passengers.
And of course, the eternal question window or aisle. What if you didn't get your preferred seat during booking?
Here's where a bit of strategic communication comes in handy. You can always politely inquire at the gate if there's a possibility of switching seats. Sometimes people are willing to trade, especially if it means accommodating a family or someone with a specific need.
So instead of just resigning myself to a middle seat, I could try my luck with a polite request.
Exactly. The key is to be polite and respectful. And you never know. You might just end up with that coveted window seat.
Okay, so we've mastered the art of boarding. We're settled in our seats. The plane is taxiing. But wait, what about those connecting flights, especially in a foreign country where I might not understand the announcements?
Connecting flights.
Yeah.
They can be a bit of a puzzle, especially when you're navigating a foreign airport.
Mm,
But don't worry, there are ways to make the process smoother.
okay. I'm all ears.
First, pay close attention to the in-flight announcements, even if you don't understand everything. They'll often repeat key information in English, especially regarding connecting flights.
Good point. And if I miss something or I'm still not sure what to do, who should I ask?
The flight attendants are a great resource. They're used to dealing with passengers from all over the world and can usually help you clarify any confusion. Plus, they might have some insider tips about the connecting airport.
Makes sense. So I shouldn't be afraid to ask for help, even if it's something as simple as, how do I find my connecting gate?
Absolutely not. It's their job to assist passengers, and most flight attendants are genuinely happy to help.
Okay, I'm starting to feel like I could handle a connecting flight in a foreign country without having a complete meltdown.
That's the goal. Remember, even if you don't speak the language fluently, a combination of strategic phrases, observation, and a bit of confidence can go a long way.
So we've navigated the departure airport, we've mastered the art of boarding, and we've even tackled connecting flights. What happens when we finally reach our destination?
Well, that's when the real adventure begins. But first, there's the final hurdle of navigating the arrival airport and getting to your final destination.
Okay, I have a feeling this part could be especially tricky in a foreign country. What are some tips for making this last leg of the journey as smooth as possible?
Well, the first thing to remember is that even if you're tired from your flight and eager to explore your new surroundings, it's important to stay alert and focused, especially when it comes to those essential airport procedures like immigration baggage claim and customs.
Right, those are definitely not the places you want to have a travel mishap.
Exactly. So let's break down those key arrival procedures and talk about how to navigate them like a pro, even in a foreign country.
Let's start with immigration. That can be a bit intimidating, especially if you're not sure what to expect.
You're right, immigration can feel a bit intense, but remember the immigration officers are just doing their job. The key is to be prepared, polite, and patient.
Okay, what kind of preparation are we talking about?
Well, first, make sure you have all your travel documents readily accessible, including your passport, visa if required, and any other relevant paperwork. It's also a good idea to have a printed copy of your itinerary and accommodation details, just in case.
Got it. Organization is key.
And when you're interacting with the immigration officer, Speak clearly and answer their questions truthfully and concisely.
So no need to launch into my entire travel itinerary unless they specifically ask.
Exactly. Stick to the point and be respectful. And don't worry if there's a bit of a language barrier. Most immigration officers are used to dealing with travelers from all over the world and will do their best to communicate effectively.
That's reassuring.
Now, once you've cleared immigration, you'll usually head to baggage claim.
Ah, baggage claim. The land of anticipation and occasional frustration.
So true. And let's face it, sometimes those baggage carousels seem to have a mind of their own.
They really do. What are some tips for navigating this potential travel obstacle course?
Well, first, before you even leave the plane, double-check your baggage claim tag to confirm the carousel number.
Right, because nothing's worse than realizing you've been waiting at the wrong carousel the whole time.
Exactly. And once you're at the correct carousel, be patient and keep an eye out for your luggage. If you don't see it after a reasonable amount of time, don't panic.
Okay, so what should I do if my luggage decides to take an unplanned vacation?
Head over to the baggage services counter and report your missing luggage. They'll usually ask for your baggage claim tag and flight information and will help you track it down.
So there's still hope, even if my luggage doesn't make it to the party on time.
Absolutely. Most lost luggage is eventually reunited with its owner. It might just take a little extra time and patience.
Okay. I'm feeling more prepared for the potential baggage claim saga. Now, what about customs? That's another area that can feel a bit intimidating, especially in a foreign country.
You're right, customs can be a bit nerve-wracking. But like immigration, the key is to be prepared, honest, and polite.
So what kind of preparation do we need for customs?
Well, before you even pack your bags, familiarize yourself with the customs regulations of your destination country. Different countries have different rules about what you can and cannot bring in, so it's important to be aware of those restrictions to avoid any potential issues.
Makes sense. So no smuggling in those extra snacks or souvenirs without checking the rules first.
Exactly.
Oh.
And when you're going through customs, be ready to declare any items that require special attention, like food, alcohol, or expensive electronics.
Okay, I'm sensing a theme here. Honesty is the best policy when it comes to airport procedures.
You got it. And if you're not sure about something, don't be afraid to ask the customs officers for clarification. They're there to help you navigate the process smoothly.
All right, so we've conquered immigration baggage claim and even customs. We're officially in the clear, right?
You bet. You've successfully navigated the arrival airport like a seasoned traveler. Now you're free to venture out and explore your exciting destination.
Wow, I am exhausted.
Yeah.
Just thinking about all those arrival procedures.
I know it sounds like a lot, but trust me, once you've done it a
Yeah.
few times, it becomes second nature.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, from deciphering airport signs to mastering those key phrases. What are some final thoughts or tips you'd like to leave our listener with?
One thing that I've learned from my travels is that a little bit of preparation goes a long way. Before you even set foot in the airport, take some time to research your destination airport. Familiarize yourself with the layout and maybe even learn a few basic phrases in the local language.
That's a great idea. It's amazing how much information is available online these days.
Exactly. You can find airport maps, transportation options, even reviews from other travelers. It's like having a virtual tour guide right in your pocket.
And speaking of technology, don't forget about those handy translation apps. They can be a lifesaver when you're trying to communicate in a foreign language.
Absolutely. Technology has definitely made traveling easier in so many ways. But even with all the gadgets and apps at our disposal, there's something to be said for the power of human connection.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I think it's easy to get caught up in the logistics of travel, checking things off our list, making sure we're on schedule. But sometimes the most memorable travel experiences come from those unexpected interactions with people from different cultures.
You're so right. It's those moments of connection that truly make a trip special.
So my advice is to embrace those opportunities to engage with the local culture, even if it's just a simple hello or thank you in the local language. You might be surprised at how much a small gesture can brighten someone's day and enrich your own travel experience.
I love that. It's a reminder that travel is about so much more than just getting from point A to point B. It's about opening ourselves up to new experiences and connecting with the world around us.
Exactly. So as you embark on your next airport adventure, remember to pack your sense of adventure, your curiosity, and your willingness to embrace the unexpected.
Those are the best travel essentials of all. And you know what? You've given our listener all the tools they need to navigate any airport with confidence and a smile.
I hope so. Safe travels, everyone. And remember, the journey is just as important as the destination.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and insights with us today.
It was my pleasure.
And to our listener, happy travels, and until next time, bon voyage.